So in the practice of Huna, which is Hawaiian shamanism, you do this chant before you enter any sacred heiaus, which is like a sacred site. And the meaning of the chant is to look for the light behind the sun. And when you discover that light, to bring that light back into yourself and to walk as that light into the world. And so it's really kind of like remembering our higher essence. And when we do, then we are sacred. And then we kind of interact with the sacredness that's all around us in the heiaus or the sacred sites.
Wow.
So,
Very nice.
All right.
What should we do? Should we stand, sit?
Oh, that's all good. Oi, ho pukai kala makai kina. Ho pukai kala makai kina. Kaua ka iele no tumutai. Ha maina iwa mehi ieka. Tapola kai kaulu vehi vehi. Na imaina iwa maku ualo. Ho ino e te tapu me na ali. He ola makau o manu alai alai alai. Oh yeah. He inoa no hiaka ipkapoli a o pele. Aloha.
Wow, thank you so much.
Cheers.
That's powerful. That makes me want to just
Yeah,
like,
some
you know,
like tribal Maori stuff too. Yes.
wow. So yeah, that's nice. So that's essentially designed to bring us in.
Yeah.
Bring us into the light.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Tell me about Hawaii. What is your connection to Hawaii?
So I've always been fascinated with spirituality and Hawaii. So even in the basic name of Hawaii, right? Ha means breath.
Right.
Vai means water.
Wow.
And E means supreme. So actually, anytime you're writing your breath supreme, you're in Hawaii.
Wow.
So it's not a literal place. It's who you are, right?
Hawaii.
Yeah.
I was born in Hawaii. And that's
amazing.
And that's the first time I think in my current modern life that I've heard that meaning.
Yeah. Because, some of the less nice term they refer to quote unquote white people is ha'auli. So ha, but auli means without. So the people without breath.
Very interesting.
Right. So very interesting, right? So when you're without breath, you are not in Hawaii, but when you are riding your breath supreme, you are in Hawaii.
Ooh,
no matter who
riding
you are.
your breath supreme. So like surfing the breath.
Surfing the breath, yeah.
So ha means breath.
Breath, yeah.
Va, water.
Vai, yeah.
Vai,
W-A-I,
water.
yeah, water.
E, supreme.
Yeah.
Ooh, and it's crazy because even when you were doing this chant, I heard words like Allah Hawaii or like Allah Hawaii. Like I've heard like there's words that almost sound like Islamic or like it's very and I would love to talk about words with you too and the power of words.
Yeah, it has a lot of vowel sounds, right?
Right.
Because so in our language the fricatives like F's and S's, you can't speak them loudly, and so the vowels you can kind of like resonate. But like the s and f sound, you can't scream f right? And actually, that's one of the reasons why like elderly people
Interesting.
can't hear some of the higher frequency sounds from those sounds, and also why our phone lines actually cut off at 4 kilohertz, and so for example, F is about 6 to 8K, and
Right.
S is about 6 to 8K. So basically, the S and the F gets cut off in the
Right.
phone lines, and that's why you have to say S for Sam and F for Frank in the phone, because you literally can't hear it.
It doesn't travel.
Doesn't actually travel through the phone lines.
That's so fascinating.
In the VoIP it'll travel, but
I mean, today we're gonna dive in. There a lot has happened this week, this month, this year. I mean, it's 2024. How do you feel about 2024 Dragon Year? What's your take on that? Like, how do you feel about what's happening right now in our time
I
right
think
now?
we are creators, and I think we are living in extremely exciting times.
OD.
Now, because we have even more tools at our disposal now,
Right.
so being unconscious, we will unconsciously create more darkness, and being conscious, we will consciously create more light. So for me, I don't ask the question in terms of what the world is creating. It's who do I be and what do I create in relationship to whatever is happening? Because when this is my purpose, passion, right? When I can live and embody my highest or higher possibility, because we all make mistakes, it's fine.
Of course, no one's perfect.
So when I'm able to embody my higher possibilities, then it doesn't matter, because whatever is coming, I can make it graceful, right? Whatever is already good, I can amplify that even more. And as long as I am aligned, connected with my higher being, then it's all going to flow, period.
Right.
So, yeah.
Ride the breath supreme.
Ride the breath supreme.
That's so fire.
Have a good time, man.
It's crazy. So as you know, I was born in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I always talk about Hawaii because I feel like it's such a spiritual place.
Mm-hmm.
It's such I left when I was about 10, life story for another time, but that was so foundational for me growing up. I went to Salt Lake Elementary School, Honolulu, Oahu, and they would teach us compassion, connectivity, relation to nature, acceptance. Like those were in the curriculum.
Yeah, nice.
Like the curriculum of Hawaiian schooling is actually, most people don't realize, it's very parallel with like Hawaiian values.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk a little bit about that? Like,
oh yeah, a lot of the practice of Huna is actually about elementals. So a lot of the chants and dances are working with air, fire, water, right, earth.
Right.
And each dance embodies an element. So being actually really familiar with elemental energy is part of the Huna practice, and even creating elementals.
right.
So yeah, it's a very, and once you are, I think, close to the fundamentals of energy,
Right.
you naturally have less separation and layers with some of the constructs that are constructed mentally when you get back to the true basis of energy, So
When did you first start kind of diving into this
I feel like
relationship with energy?
I've always had a fascination or curiosity about the core of religions, I would say. So my parents were devout Buddhists, but so I grew up in the States. Both of them got their PhDs from Hopkins, but they were open-minded enough to have me experience different modalities, I would say, right? So
Yeah.
so I went to Catholic grade school,
Okay.
I still remember the Sister Trinita who'd still, beat us with a cane,
She had the cane. Was it a bamboo cane? Was it bamboo?
So sometimes a meter stick,
Damn. Like heavy.
So like Catholic, right?
Yeah,
Catholicism. I
right.
went to like Christian summer camps. I actually really liked that. I actually told my parents I wanted to convert to Christianity because,
Right.
in Buddhism, you had to take on all your karma.
Oof. Yeah.
And in Christianity, you just say, I'm sorry, and it's all done, right? And you get to hang out with like cute girls at the summer camps. And it was like the first time I got to like have time by myself. I was like, oh, this is the bomb. Christianity is the bomb. You do like sailing and archery.
Right. As a kid, you're just looking at.
I was like, I'm converting.
You're just looking at the amenities. What amenities do different religions have? Right.
And then I went to like Quaker high school. So I really appreciate that because we had like meeting for worship, which means that when it's like once a week, but when you go into the space, there's actually no specific agenda or preacher. You are only moved to speak when your inner light moves you to speak.
Oh, wow.
So it's really cool. So it's like whoever is felt moved by their inner light speaks. Right. And that's the essence of Quakerism and peace too. Right. So nonviolence. Right. So it's really cool. And I've traveled a lot. Right. So I've been to Tibet 3 times, India and Nepal. So we met with the Karmapa, which at that time was only 9 years old. And he was the head of the black sect of Tibetan Buddhism.
When you were 9.
When the Karmapa was.
I see.
So I explored a lot of kind of like religious ideas. And what is the truth of what different cultures portray as the divine, right? Like what is the truth, of that? So for me, now, having explored so much, it's for me, it's kind of like the essence of truth can be seen, felt, interacted with through pure energy. Because it's like that. There's no as much filter on it then. And so I'm also trained in NLP, so Neuro-Linguistic Programming, hypnosis. So I'm a master practitioner and trainer. So in a lot of the utilizing the tools to help people, like people who's gotten raped, athletes to get better.
Heavy trauma.
PTSD, right? And working with so many people, you kind of start to see a pattern of what emerges, what makes people choose the pain, pleasure, towards pain, towards pleasure, away from pain.
That's fascinating.
Motivations, and also the underlying energetics of what truly works in terms of a transformation. We can already go into some of it if you want. Like for me, it's like, I'm semi-retired, so there's nothing I need to do during the day, but I'm invited to give talks at seminars and retreats. So a lot of what I talk about is what I kind of discovered for myself. And so for example, one of them will be people are doing like a mini Vipassana, and they're coming out of like a 3-day meditation. And I give them the more precise tools of how to take that meditation into their daily lives. Because that's the most important part. Like the true, meditation is kind of like, practicing basketball foul shots.
Yeah, the free throws.
The free throws, right?
That's a great analogy.
Because that state of peace, if you can't get to that state of peace without anybody disturbing you, you're not going to get the ball in the basket when the world is happening. and
it's like it's rhythm, it's flow, and it's so interesting. You said that just last night. I was at the courts, and like I saw a little like there's a guy coaching one of his friends how to shoot, and it's like it looks so like Tai Chi-esque, like starting from the floor and then sprouting out.
Nice.
So it's like I never heard someone say the analogy of meditation is like free throws.
Yeah, because for me, it's practice, right? That state of peace and acceptance, you have to be able to get to it first to be able to draw it out in game situations, right? Like if you're
that's a fire analogy, yes, because it's like I'm seeing myself. I'm a bowler, so it's like I'm seeing myself at the line, and like you always see that. It's like they take that breath, they relax, and then and it's like whew, action.
But most people mistake the meditation for the end game when life is the end game. Meaning people think that peace is the end when it's just the beginning. It's just so that you get to embody more of your light in the interaction with your family, with your friends, with the boss that you don't like, that you can still bring that peace, right? It's not reserved for when you do yoga and when you're in the meditation nobody's disturbing you space. It's about active, meditation, active bringing out who you are. So I came up with a frameworks because a lot of times energy can seem amorphous, right? It's kind of hard to have checkpoints on our spiritual path.
Right. It's so elusive.
It's seemingly elusive. So, so I developed
worse than the wind, right? Energy is worse than the wind.
So I developed this for myself so I can have a checkpoint in my own practice, so that I can know when I'm on course and off course. Because I think that's the thing. If people are practicing spirituality and they don't even know if they're progressing or not, that's going to be hard. Because there's a story, right? This old man tells this Olympic archer, it's like, I can take anybody, and have him shoot better than you, given one condition. And he's like, no way. What's the condition? Right. He's like, I'm going to blindfold you and turn you around so you have no idea where the target is. Right? So if he has no idea where the target is, how's he going to shoot, right?
Everyone is panicking.
Right. So
people are like, what?
So in the realm of spirituality or energy, I think precise targets have been not well defined. So I kind of have a structure to at least start to define it. And that way, whatever religion or concepts, you can use the structure to then put your own spin on it, right? Because So basically, like, start with the fundamentals. In terms of energy, there's negative expressions, neutral expressions, and positive expressions. That's pretty easy to understand, right? And then with each expression, there is yin or feminine inward expressions and yang or masculine outward expressions. Both for the negative, neutral, and positive.
So yin is in, yang is out.
Yang is out, right? And there's no absolute good or bad in terms of those, right? So starting with level 1 is negative yin, right? And this is when the energy of it, and a lot of the energy feedback that we get is through our emotions.
Always, right? Always.
Yeah, which is energy in motion. So it's actually a really good gauge because a lot of times people mistake that emotions are who they are, rather than a gauge showing them the direction that they have knowingly or unknowingly directed their consciousness and focus.
I'm seeing a sail. I'm like, when you say that, I'm visualizing that sail. Like, the wind is coming, the energy is coming, the anger is coming, the excitement is coming, but you're saying it's up to us to catch it this way or catch it that way.
Yes, you can direct that sail.
Because I know I get angry and I'm like, here now. Like, so that's me, like, almost like, I'm going to let the anger take me here.
Yes.
And then there are times where, like, I'm so hype and I'm like, let's go here.
Yeah.
So you're saying we can control that.
You can absolutely control it. It's what Tony Robbins mentions as state control. So it's been given so many different names, right? But the core of it is that there's energy behind it.
Right.
And wherever you're directing your sail, you're going to get the emotional feedback whether you are disconnected and further from the essence of who you are, and it's going to feel bad.
Right.
Or you are connected and getting closer to who you are, and it's going to feel good.
And this is like natural. This is universal.
It's built in. Like, so basically, anytime you feel bad, you are disconnected. Almost no exception.
Wow.
And so it's really clean, though. It's actually really clear. So that you actually don't have to be confused. You could be like, oh, but I'm suffering through this for the benefit. Not at the highest level. So basically, it's like, once I give you the grid, you'll get that you don't have to suffer through anything.
So that's almost like stubbornness a little bit.
Yeah, there's so many ways to approach. There's 100 stories that you can tell, and each story will give you an emotional feedback of whether that story is closer to your essence or further from your essence.
This is so interesting because I think last year, really cool documentary came out. Shout out Jonah Hill and Phil Stutz. Documentary was called Stutz. And here you have a psychiatrist, helping out a lot of these Hollywood stars going through crazy trauma, insecurity, right? But Jonah Hill decides to shoot a documentary on his psychiatrist. And Phil Stutz apparently changed the game because he was giving frameworks and practical advice to his patients that otherwise never was done before. Where he was like, when you're feeling like this, go exercise. Like he was just telling people like what to do to get better. And a lot of the community looked down on him for doing that because sometimes things are like benefiting off people in a stagnant state. I'm relating that to you in terms of spirituality because I feel like here we are in a time, it's 2024, whatever that year means, right? But we've been exploring and studying spirituality, philosophy, the truth of life for how many years as humans?
Yeah.
It's time for things to get better, right? It's time for things to get evolved. So it feels like you're working on like how to make it more practical and accessible.
Well, ultimately for myself. So here's the thing. I mean, we're infinite beings. There's no hurry. Because sometimes people are in a hurry.
Right. Well, a hurry to what? What are we in a hurry? What do you think we're in a hurry for?
So whether we know it or not, we've been through experiences already.
Right.
You know, of quote unquote heaven, hell, rich, poor, man, woman, with family, without family. We have references for that, whether we know it or not, right?
Right.
The question isn't necessarily how do we create heaven on earth, because when you die, you're going to go to pure ecstatic energy anyways. Regardless. It doesn't matter. You could have killed people. You could have like cheated, lied to people. You might have a life review where you get to stand in the perspective of the people whom you've quote unquote hurt and cheated, just because you are actually everything. Right. So to understand your impact is the best way to learn. But from this ecstatic energy that is the universe, there's no additional punishment that's necessary. Right. Like we a lot of times portray the divine from our human perspective.
Right, all the time.
Right?
All the time, right?
Because we're limited by our beliefs.
Sometimes I feel like us as people looking at our own spirit is like we got that little scope and we're like a mile away and we're like, what are you doing over there? Like it's like it's crazy.
So since everybody make mistakes anyway, but the mistakes will be known through the actually knowing that we are everything and the experience of everybody's perspective. Right. We will get it, right? It's just that while you're here, you might as well have a good time.
That's a vibe.
Right?
I mean, I hear that and I'm like, that's why that would make sense why religions don't really support other spirituality practices, because it's like if I always think it's like if you knew if you truly believe that, I'm inclined to believe that. I'm sure there's many people that we all entitled to what we believe in, but let's say we all eventually hypothetically agree on a truth, and that truth we establish is what you just said. That would mean frameworks would collapse. People would no longer fear death, right? So what's a world like that where people don't fear death anymore? Yes. What does a world like that look like in your vision?
Even when they don't fear death, the funny thing is some people might still fear not having enough money.
Not enough tools to play with.
No. So it's not even about the topic. Like I said, it's still about the underlying energetics. So someone can be fearless around death, but they might have tons of fear around being rejected within a relationship. And so
it's not
about it. So
fear has many heads.
Yeah. So it's not about that. It's about whatever is the external circumstances. Who are you being in relationship to that? And if you can, in the moment, awake, which is, the Buddha, in terms of Buddhism, 觉醒 actually simply means awake. When you are awakened to your possibility in that moment, you are Buddha, you are Jesus, you are Allah, right? So it's not that the religions are bad because everybody does the best they can. Right. It's just that's
a framework too, essentially.
The framework that people set up naturally contain the limitations that they already have. And it's fine, but even within the Bible, so for example, John 10:34, it says, "Is it not written in your laws, I have said, ye are gods." In the Bible, it says, you are God. And Jesus has said, everything that I've done, you can do and more. Right? So it's not about whether it's in the Bible or in the Quran. It's dependent on the consciousness of the preacher, whether they choose to amplify suffering or they choose to amplify divinity.
That's amazing. That gets me hyped because I feel like there's no better time, obviously right now, than to be human. And one of the reasons why I said it's been an exciting month, you know, like there's been a lot of like mainstream characters coming out and talking about very esoteric, ancient mythology. This word is very interesting to me these days. This idea of mythology, this idea that it wasn't real. You cited, I mean, you seem very well versed in religion. So you cited the Bible, you cited some Hawaiian religion, some spiritual, but like recently, for example, Billy Carson comes on Joe Rogan, 1.8, 2 million views already. It's blowing up. He's talking about ancient tablets, Emerald Tablet of Thoth. Yeah. And he's talking about how humans, of course, genetically engineered by extraterrestrial beings.
Yeah, Anus.
The Anunnaki, right? Yeah. And he's talking about, but something happened and we were created. Like he almost said, like the Anunnaki, one of them, I forgot the name he mentioned. I'm not well versed yet. But one of the engineers messed up and he made us to be better than them. And this is what caused a lot of division because humans have another code that allows us to be even more powerful. And then that led to like the biblical story of the Tower of Babel, where it's like when we come together and when we get into these vibrational, energetical manifestation level, like, you know, it's like we're unstoppable. What's your take on that?
Yeah, for sure. We have so much potential, right? It's just a lot of times we're taking kind of like one step forward, two steps back, partially because, so in this realm, physicalization is condensations of energy. This is actually even mentioned in the I Ching. So basically, when our thoughts...
Shout out Lao Tzu.
Woo!
Shout out Lao Tzu.
So when our thoughts become condensed enough, it becomes emotions. When the emotions become condensed enough, it will manifest itself as words. When words become condensed enough, it becomes action. When actions become condensed enough, it becomes our character. And when our character becomes condensed enough, it becomes our life, right? And so it's all condensations of energy. It's just that sometimes we choose something, but before it has condensed enough, we already give up. So it's not a steady holding of a vibrational focal point enough for it to physicalize. And that's part of the reason why we're in this playground. Because in the spiritual realm, because it's higher vibrational, the thought to manifestation bridge is much faster.
You're right. I've heard of this.
Yeah.
And I heard in the astral plane, it's even faster.
Yeah, totally.
And this is a big reason why we come to Earth, is to kind of feel the thoughts, to touch the thoughts. And
also to actually fine tune. So basically, your creation has to be much more fine tuned because just take something as simple as someone wanting to lose weight. Right. I mean,
the classic.
It's actually not a big deal. Whether or not you lose weight is no big deal. Like you literally just have to eat less than you expand. Right. You like at the core energetic levels, that's it. Right. Now, why is it so quote unquote difficult? Because the actual being of that concept is not easy. And so part of what we get to do here is that, you know, everybody knows it's better to love, forgive, be generous, right? And as simple a thing as losing weight. Who knew that there was so much spiritual power in that? Because whether or not you, quote unquote, lose weight doesn't matter. Who you become in the process because of your tenacity, because of your choosing of who you are, because of your willingness to move your body or in ways that you weren't comfortable before. Who you become in the process, nobody can take away.
Right. 100%. I
You know?
agree 100%.
And so that's the gift. That's the gift, because
Right.
people can have the thought of losing weight. They can have the excitement during New Year's for 3 days that they're pumped, right? They can even have the words, I'm going to do this. They can even take the action of joining a gym membership. But when that action is not yet condensed enough and sustained enough, it simply reflects to you that your focal point is not held. That's it.
Right.
And so,
That's so true.
The physical becomes this such a beautiful mirror reflection of our current spiritual state.
Right.
How beautiful is that, right? So,
Right.
so that means that you get to whatever it is that you desire. So desire, of sire, father. So any desire you have actually comes from God. How cool is that?
Right.
So because a lot of times people are trying to put down the ego, right? And so on the highest level, when you have no judgment on yourself, any desire, anything that you want to experience yourself as is a valid divine task of your spiritual path.
That's dope.
It's dope.
That's
right?
dope. Yeah, it's like you're releasing the stigma.
It's the stigma,
It's
right?
the stigma around the want.
Yes. And so it could be losing weight, it could be money, it could be a great relation, whatever it is. If it's what you want and you don't have it yet, that is your spiritual path, because you can absolutely have it. The only reason you're not having it is because part of your energy fluctuation don't think you can.
Right.
And therefore your thought to emotion to word to action condensation isn't aligned yet.
I love that analogy so much, because it's like, yeah, you see somebody, six pack, brolic, girl, amazing legs, and like, my girlfriend's a fitness trainer and whatnot. Like, I'm an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
My abs can be stronger, better, etc. I usually do it because I want it for health purposes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's an undeniable recognition when you see somebody fit. And I always tell people, it's like, it's a subliminal communication when somebody is like chiseled, and like a lot of times people will be like, they'll down it, right? They'll be like, look at that meathead, or like that guy just works out some blah, 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 blah. They'll down it. They'll hate on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I always am like, yo, you can't hate on that, because that's just literally a representation, a symbolic expression of what you just said, the dedication, the hard nights, the repetition.
Mm-hmm. So I think the trap is that people get attached. People have it backwards. They get attached to needing the physical thing before they can be happy.
Right. I was going to ask
That's
you,
the trap.
what is so like that physical, like let's say you go to the gym, you're healthy, the representation is your physical, as like your stature, the way you look. What is that version for spirituality? Like what is the side effect of being enlightened, in your opinion? Is it aura? Is it glow? Is it like, is it like, is your skin beaming?
Okay, so we'll go back to the 6 levels, because I think that'll answer that question.
Right.
Because I think, so the trap is that you think any external person, place, thing, or circumstance is the source of how you feel.
That's definitely a trap, right?
Rather than you come from who you are and how you feel and the directing your energy.
Right.
And from there, create from fullness. You're already full. So you actually don't need to be fit or the money or the relationship.
Right,
and you're already full, but then you create from that fullness into who you choose to be. Right. So a lot of times people have it backwards, because if you need money,
definitely,
or a certain amount of it in order to be happy, you're like unhappy the whole time you're on the journey. Versus when you already know that you are fullness itself,
right,
and you happily choose to create money, it's
right,
very different, because you're happy the whole time. It might take you 20 years to make your million or whatever.
right,
Right. But you're happy the whole time. So and that's the difference, because you can suffer through it.
right.
Where unless you have this cute girl or cute guy or whatever,
Right.
You're not happy. Versus you're happy. You're like most happy when you're alone. And yes, someone who is worthy of dancing with you can more easily come along, and it's going to be to their benefit and your benefit, because both of you, obvious, since we're imperfect people, there will be amplified patterns that emerge for us to clean up so that we can be even more clean, right?
Right. Shout out Jensen Huang. I mean, that's an archetypical story because that's why we gravitate to stories like Jensen Huang, NVIDIA. Like you look at his 35-year span and what does he say at the end? I wish you more pain and suffering. Right? It's like everyone hyped. Where does he eat these days? Like like everybody's hyped, but it's like, what are we really hyped by? I think it's closer to what you're saying.
And that's his definition.
Right.
So he will equate that the only way you can create is through pain and suffering. It's not the truth. Because the universe is all. So you obviously, if you can create, I'm not saying you can't create through pain and suffering. You obviously can, because part of our greatest gift is our freedom of choice.
Oh, we're going to talk about, let's talk about free will in a second.
Okay.
Hold up. Who was the creator of Kung Fu? What's his name? Li Mo? Creator of Kung Fu? Da Mo. Do you know Da Mo?
Yes. He's a big figure in the Buddhist,
When you spoke about achieving that doesn't necessarily mean you look like it, it made me think of Da Mo. Or the Fat Buddha. Sure. Because like these people are like belly, big belly, right? Bald head. Da Mo is not necessarily attractive.
Yeah.
But here he's the founder of Kung Fu. And most people don't know that actually in the Western world, right?
That's cool.
What's your take on Da Mo?
So I would say that it depends on if that was part of what he's choosing to create, and enlightenment, people think of it as a period when it's just the beginning. Like anytime you're riding your breath supreme, like Hawaii, you are in Hawaii. Anytime you're embodying your higher aspect, you are in light. People think that you get enlightened, you basically see the light,
right?
And you're guaranteed like that enlightenment forever, and that's not truth. It's like, take Michael Jordan or Kobe. Like, okay, so they got an NBA ring. Right. So what? They stopped practicing? You get what I'm saying?
Right, right.
That's not how. Okay, so they never miss a shot. Right. That's not how it works, right? So it's like when someone like Picasso reached the height of their ability to do photorealistic drawings, did he stop? No. Now he starts to explore all these other realms. So enlightenment is not a state that you just get guaranteed that you're going to make all your shots anymore. No, you have a reference point that others may not of how brilliant that light is.
Interesting.
Right?
You get to taste it.
You taste it. Therefore, because you've already tasted it, you can get closer to it, or when you fall, by the wayside, you can get back to it faster and easier because you have the framework of knowing what it is. But it's no guarantee. It's not about perfection. So it's not like about worshiping someone who has gotten that. It's that they now become a reference of what's possible for us.
Right.
Okay, so let's get back to the levels because it's the fundamental structure. All right, so level 1, negative yin, right? So negative energy inward. And that's basically the energy of helplessness and depression, where you feel like you are so worthless that you can do nothing. But you can feel that, right? It's negative and it's like, right? And when you are negatively depressed enough, you'll even want to say, kill yourself.
Right. Because
you have such little impact on the world, you feel like it's worthless for you to even live, right? So that's
I see a little plant, little yellow brown plant at the bottom of the rainforest, not getting no light.
Yeah.
Right.
And the funny thing is, it doesn't have to go to that extreme. Anytime that you say you can't. So basically any word, so if we're going to talk about, so words will fit into each of these levels, right? So anytime you say you can't, on some level, you're tapping into that negative yin energy, right? Because you might not be able to now, but instead of saying I can't, you can say later on I will be. It's two very different energies. So words are power. Words create, right? So, and with this framework, you'll see what words fit into which energetic cubby holes and where you're directing your sail. And so even enlightened or people who has at least seen the light sometimes makes mistakes. So even their words sometimes captured in scripture, you can see on an energetic
interesting.
level that it's off balance.
Wow.
So once you actually get the grid, you no longer have to take someone else's word for it. It can be the Pope who said it, or the Dalai Lama, or Damo. They too make mistakes.
Right.
And you'll actually be able to tell when a mistake is made because it's set at an energetic level that is limiting, helpless, or angry, frustrated.
Or the basketball night. Even Jordan has an off night.
Right.
Like, you know,
Exactly.
the shots,
You know.
sometimes the
That's-
shots just don't fall.
Right. And that's okay. But he knows what to work on. Like, he's already at that high of level, so he knows what to work on. So this framework is not about absolutes, but simply about knowing where you're at and where you can go to.
Right.
And that because a lot of times people take things wholesale. So someone who's achieved a certain thing, now they're taking everything they say as gospel, rather than re-examining from a energetic standpoint what is on and what is off. Right.
Yeah.
So level 1, depression, helplessness.
Right.
Level 2 is negative yang. So basically negative masculine, negatively expressed outward. So this is anger, frustration, criticism.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime we're actually critical or angry, we are expressing a story of dissatisfaction of whatever is not what it's supposed to be. Right? So, and when you're truly present, whatever is cool. Right?
That's true.
And it's just a story. So, and partially when we're in the negative yang state, we are secretly saying that I have no power to change what is. Because if you knew the next moment you would get what you want, would you still be angry? You wouldn't.
Right.
Right? It's because you don't think you can create what you want that you get angry and frustrated because you're actually feeling powerless. Right. So there's actually these energetic pathways that simply reveal to us the story that we're telling. And it's not a permanent story. You can see it as like sunglasses too, different shades of sunglasses. There is the depressed, helpless sunglass perspective. There is the angry, frustrated sunglass perspective. And the core of what is can be seen from all these lenses. There's more than 6, obviously, but these 6, you'll at least start to get, when I'm at level 1 or 2, when I'm at negative yin or yang, I'm basically putting on a sunglass, whether I know it or not, a perspective that disserves me and my connection and whatever I'm creating. So,
and a lot of people think that people don't know. Like, a lot of people are in that state and they be thinking like, the room is looking at you. Like, the room is knowing that you're out of vibration right now.
Yeah. And so with this framework, at least you can really precisely know. It's like, hey, anytime that I am saying I can't or helpless or frustrated, my energy is off, but that's okay. Jordan also misses a shot.
Right.
The thing is, he doesn't, like a newborn baby, start pouting on the ground
because they can't walk yet. Like,
right.
It's like,
and he doesn't.
You don't give up on walking.
Right. He doesn't cry about that shot.
Right.
Right. He's not going to go to level 1 about that shot because he knows that that'll get him nowhere. Right. He doesn't. He's not going to, in the long term, complain about his bad game. He's going to, at least get higher and do something that actually gets his game better.
Right.
Because that complaining is going to be a cyclical loop, which happens a lot for some psychologists, right? You can go to a psychologist for 10 years and if they're just repeating the same story at the same level of being a victim, right? That story simply continues, right? And so once aware that the energy is already off at a negative level 1 or 2, it's up to you to then change it, and it's changeable.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So then we move to neutral. So neutral, level 3, neutral yin, is the meditative state. Right. It's peace and acceptance. Calm. You're peaceful.
Chilling.
You're accepting. Right.
Yeah.
So now there's no absolute. So meaning if someone is depressed, and they want to kill themselves.
Right.
It would actually, and basically they're blaming themselves, right? So inwardly they're blaming themselves. I am worthless.
Right.
So it actually serves them to go to level 2 to be angry and blame the world.
That's energy.
Right? So instead of wanting to kill themselves, now they want to kill the world, or they're complaining, but they no longer want to kill themselves because they think someone else is at fault. Right? So energetically,
That's crazy. The world is in two right now. Heavy in two.
it's all over. There are people who are ecstatic, and there are people who are
true.
right. So
I guess my algorithm is showing me a lot of two right now.
that's cool.
People mad at everyone.
That's okay.
Election season.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like once you get the framework, you will no longer be mad at people being mad.
Right.
Right? Because that's what it's about. Right? So it's like, because you being mad about other people won't change anything.
Right.
You're actually some level, knowingly or unknowingly, saying that can't be changed.
Right.
Whereas when you get to level 3, right, where it's just neutral yin, if you can accept that anytime there will be mad people, but that's totally fine.
Right.
Because they simply put on an eyeglass that's mad, and when they choose to awake, they can very easily take off that sunglass and put on one of peace. And what happens when you hold people at their peace is that they have the permission much more to elevate into that. While if you are angry at their anger, you hold them at their anger.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a bond. That's like there's bonds there.
Right. And it's never about them. We just make sure that our energy is clean. So if people mad at the election is getting your energy off, that's a gift. That's a gift. That's the basket showing you that you just shot an off ball. Mm-hmm. And instead of complaining to the basket, right?
Go fix your form.
You fix the form, and your form is getting yourself to neutral or above.
Right.
That's it, right? So once you have the emotional feedback that your energy is already off, if you're depressed, helpless, angry, I can't, complaining,
right,
your energy is disconnected or off balance. Your only task in that moment isn't to change the outside, it's to change the inside. So because the inside story and eyeglass perspective can be changed right away. Right away. Right away. And so nothing on the outside needs to change, but you can already be correcting your form.
Before you hit level 4, I'm gonna just catch that, because a lot of times I'll meet people. I'm naturally a person like snap, like, yeah, just it's a great day. You're breathing. You got 10 toes. You got 10 fingers. Like, you're good. You're healthy. You got all your limbs. So much to be grateful for. But then a lot of the responses I'll get sometimes, whether it's friends, maybe family, loved ones, why do you think I can't just switch it? What do you say to the people who always say they can't just switch? They can't turn it on.
It is a muscle. So level 4 is gratitude, right? So curiosity, inspiration, gratitude. So it's neutral, masculine, right? So it's still neutral, right? So it's the difference between when you're at peace, your eyes are kind of like,
right.
Versus when you're curious or grateful, your eyes kind of brighten, right? So the energy is not completely out yet, right? Now, when someone goes to the gym for the first time and you're putting 200 pounds for them,
mm-hmm,
they might not be able to do it,
right,
because they haven't actually already put in the time. So like anything, right? So
the progressive
right.
steps.
So it's like, have you shot 10,000 balls, right? Have you put in 1,000 hours, right? So I played the violin since I was 6, right? Have you practiced your instrument that much?
Right.
Have you practiced your art that much? And so because spirituality is and emotions are very amorphous, people simply haven't put in time, because they didn't even have the framework through which to practice, right? But at least now that when we know that the framework is anytime we're at level 1 or 2, it's off balance, or the ball didn't go in and we go on balance. When you practice that 100 times, 1,000, then people will know that they can. But even then, things are going to come up with seemingly too much momentum,
right,
and they're going to be reactive.
Right.
But that's the game.
Right.
Right. So it's okay, partially because people haven't practiced.
Right.
That's all. And it's fine.
Right.
But once with the framework, you can start to practice so that whenever the energy's off, you can, and it might be hard for someone who's in anger to jump to, so 2 to 4 or 1 to 4, like depressed to gratitude.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It's just too big of a jump for people.
That's the free throw to the 3-point.
Right.
That's the 3-point shot.
Yes.
Right? That's like I don't got the strength to shoot that far.
Or from the logo.
Half court from the logo. That's crazy. 1 to 4 is a logo shot.
For people, it would seem impossible, and that's why they're like, "What are you talking about?" Right? Because they haven't even worked on it. They haven't even worked on just standing at the side of the basket and hitting.
You might have a lot of relationships where it's like it's a 4 and a 1.
Yeah, but
it's a 4 and a 2.
Yes, and so it's partially the practice is so that we are taking any circumstance that you are really quickly. You can just speak one sentence for that circumstance, right? From level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that you are now flexible in realizing that you have at least 6 ways of seeing this one thing. Whereas most people, the way they live is that they only live usually in one perspective.
That's fascinating.
In relationship to their family or their work or relationship.
Right. You get lost in it.
Right. And so
it's easy.
That is the quote unquote karma mentioned in Buddhism.
Because this can go macro.
Yes.
Right? You're saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
Yeah.
2 can be 200 years of a civilization.
It can be your whole life. You can be angry at the politicians and society or government your whole life.
Right. That's
right?
interesting.
So rather than you can be at peace, the moment that you are able to take what used to anger you, right? Say blaming the government, right? And you can get to peace or appreciation, you are actually free of that karma. There is no, like every karma that you can conceive of can be completely reshaped right now, this lifetime.
That's amazing.
Right. And because if
that's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And it's on some level at the very basis, it's pure energy.
Right.
Like, can this stimulus that used to get your goat no longer get your goat? You're free. You no longer then have that karma. It doesn't matter how many lifetimes it came from before.
You realized it already.
It will all be reflected right now. So if you have a resistance to something in this lifetime, it can come from several lifetimes ago. It can come from your genetic lines. That doesn't matter. The matter is that if you can choose to consciously reprogram that pattern, that is a statement of who you are and empowered, that you have already resolved all those generational or all those past life karma, because you are making a statement of who you are right now that's strong enough to overcome that.
Wow.
Right.
Number 5. Where we at?
All right.
Number 5.
So number 5 is, now we get to positive, right? So positive yin, and that's like flow, self-love, happiness, right? So you're in like the flow state.
That's only 5.
5.
And it's crazy because 5 is, on this show, we a lot of the frameworks, I was inspired by Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
Right. So self-actualization is almost like 5.
Mm-hmm.
You start experiencing flow state.
Yeah.
Or in slang, we call it God mode.
Yeah.
Everything you do is just flowing nice. It's like manifesting quick.
And once you're in the positive realm, you can kind of switch back from yin or yang, because it's just inward, outward, right? Self-love versus external love, right? So level 6 is like you are in action, like you said. You are actually in action, in flow, ecstatic, passionate, because it's outward, right?
Phenomenon now. It's like peak phenomenon.
Yeah, so it's kind of like even a kid learning how to skateboard. They might fall 100 times, but they're like cracking up as they're getting up from the skateboard, because they're in ecstasy. They're really in ecstasy. Like that fall, that quote unquote failure is nothing to them, because they're in the ecstasy. And we were talking about discomfort, right? There's absolutely no discomfort when you're in level 6, because the perspective of discomfort is actually complaining in level 2. Right? So once you're level 6, there's no discomfort, because their fall is an ecstatic stepping stone to their play or success.
Or like some people say, it's like a weird blend of like sadomasochism. It's like, I think of Shaun White. I think I mentioned him a couple of times. Like, he's in the hospital, like smiling. I mean, of course he's in pain, but it's like he just attempted to do a trick no one's ever done before, and he just broke like 3 of his joints. But he's hyped. He's like, I'm gonna be back.
Yeah. And the thing is, because these are all perspectives, given the fact that he's broken his bones, he could go depression.
Right.
He could go angry.
The downward spiral.
So I'll give an
versus the
example. It's
upward
like this is like if he was at level 1, he'd be like, "Oh, life is over.
I'm never gonna snowboard again.
Yeah, I'm never gonna do it again." Right? Level 2, and this is just one sentence, right? Never, I can't. Right? Number 2 is like, "Oh, why this shit always happened to me? Like life is so unfair. Like this sucks, man. Like shit." You know, why everybody else is having a good life, but I'm not, right? So it's just 1 or 2 sentences. Level 3 is like, okay, I broke some bones, but I'm cool with it. It's all right. It happened.
I'm
but
here right now.
I can accept the fact that
I'm breathing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can still feel my balls.
Yeah. Right. Level 4 is like, man, I am so grateful to have had the opportunity to have experienced, to try that trick. Wow, and even though, you know, my bones are broken,
I was close though.
I appreciate
I
almost landed. I appreciate my courage because not a lot of people can even have the courage to actually try what I did. So I appreciate myself, right?
Wow.
And then like, dude, I'm happy. Like I'm happy.
6 is
right. 6, right? 5 is like, dude, I am stoked. Like that I tried it. Man, I am dope. Like I love myself. I love the fact that I am equipped with this physical body to do this, right?
Yeah.
And level 6 would be like, as soon as this heals, I'm gonna try the trick again. Right? He's already planning like 3 months, 6 months when he gets out. He's gonna try it again.
He's like perfect. I got planning time
dude,
in the hospital bed. Like yes. I can.
Right.
That's crazy.
And you see, and you can feel each level through just 1 or 2 sentences. That's how good your emotional feedback system is. Meaning, when you are depressed, it's an immediate feedback that you are playing really small of what you're possible in playing. And guess what? The thing that he is in the hospital, that didn't change. The circumstance doesn't change. You, through your quote-unquote enlightenment, you realize that you have a choice in how you interact with what is. That's the enlightenment. Now, will you always choose 3 and above? Not necessarily. We all make mistakes. You know, Jordan misses a shot.
Right.
But at least you will no longer be lying to yourself when you're feeling bad. That's your spiritual path. And that's important. Meaning, when you're like, oh, I can't do this, or you're complaining, you will no longer think that that's your higher path. You will no longer think that at least that's playing at your higher levels. And with that realization, then there's room for improvement. Because, you know, with hypnosis, I was able to like someone, if they truly wanted to quit smoking, I can have them smell a cigarette, and instead of desire, I can have them want to puke. Right. But if the wife of the dude comes and it's like, oh, my husband wants to quit smoking, it's not coming from him. And our most valuable thing is our free choice, right? So it's
let's
like,
talk about free will.
So that choice of being able to continue to do something, even if it's not your higher choice, is part of our greatest gift, because that's where the learning comes from. Part of it is that because it takes longer to condense energy, and because the condensed energy now stays for longer, you will get a really solid mirror reflection of your choices, of where you've directed your energy. And so that free choice truly allows us to see ourselves where we are and what we're creating. And that's beautiful.
That's beautiful, but it also, it makes me, you know, there's a lot of other stuff going on outside of this show, like, you know, family members sick and stuff. Sure. So it's like, it makes me contemplate sometimes, you know, dare I say, things like cancer, you know, physical ailments. Are these manifestations of these potential consistent negative energetical vibrational perspectives? Can you self-manifest your own cancer technically?
Yes, you can. Actually, they did a study, 80% of cancer can be traced to a major traumatic emotional event 1 or 2 years before. 80%.
Wow.
That's huge. But that also means, because we've had so many miracle remissions,
Yeah, I've heard of some too.
Right? That
terminal turn, like
we are such powerful manifestors. Now, obviously, if it took you 5 years to create that cancer, it might take a little bit to undo it, simply because of the quote unquote karma, which is simply pattern way of being and way of thinking, has taken that long to condense that energy. Now, if you get inspired enough, we were talking about smoking. So, a woman could have smoked 10 years of her life. And she's like, oh, there's no way I can. And as soon as she gets pregnant, she quits. So sometimes there needs to be a big enough why for you to dramatically now make a different choice. And with that new choice, your physical is now reflecting that. Now, there is no blame per se, because there are, from the perspective of creation, right? It's not that every little detail is already created, meaning, you can play an open platform video game.
Right.
Now, even though it's all programmed in, right? You don't have to go face the final boss, dude. You can go kick it with an NPC in a bar, and that's your game.
Yeah.
And then some of the mini games, like, I don't know, you can play chess within the game. Yeah, and that's all you do.
Yeah.
There's nothing that says you have to go complete the story.
Right.
So even though it's all programmed in, there are choices that we get to make that then interacts and reflects our choices.
Right.
Now, the likelihood of someone who is at a level 2 complaining, angry, and that anger manifests as they want to pick fights all the time, the likelihood of someone fighting them is high, right? And it's all probabilities. It's just that when you're in that angry state and you're fighting all the time, the probability of having a reflection of fighting is high. While if someone's mainly at level 3 peace, right? The likelihood of them picking a fight is low. Now, that doesn't mean that, some drunk dude coming out of a bar might not go up to this dude and say, hey, dude, I don't like the way you look.
Right.
It's just that the reaction is not going to be, dude, want to fight? The reaction is going to be,
all right. You want me to move?
No. It's like, many people have said I don't look that good. Because he's just accepting, right? And usually when someone says that,
and then the other person's like,
like what's there to fight? There's no hook, right? So
there's no story.
There's no story there. So the likelihood, once again, I'm not saying it's impossible, but the probability of that pathway connecting with that fight is very low. Right? Because it's like, there's no hook.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that allows you in life, as you're more aware of these 6 frameworks, again, gives you the ability to adjust sail.
Direct your sail, yes.
When you feel these emotions. And and you're saying the emotion is amorphous, so you're always going to get hit with emotions. Where do you think emotions come from?
So once again, you're not getting hit. They're actually very precise gauges.
Yes.
So when you already feel them, you may have, it might seem like you got hit with it because your consciousness, your thought has already congealed long enough, but you weren't aware of it.
I was just happy, now I'm angry.
Right. So you weren't aware of it, but it's already been congealing. And by the time you feel it, your gauge is already showing you that it has congealed enough to manifest as an energy emotion.
Okay. And congealing is like festering. It's like building.
Not necessarily festering. It's just condensing.
Oh, congealing is like condensing.
Think of it as just condensing.
It's clouding.
Yeah, the clouds are about to rain. And by the time it rains, you're already getting a feedback of how and which direction your energy has condensed.
Can we have congealing of like the positive sort?
Yes, absolutely.
So there's like blessing rain.
Yes,
too.
There's blessing rain.
What's that?
If you're like 4, 5, 6, if you're in gratitude, there's blessing rain. You're gonna see, synchronicities, right? People are just coming into you that, whoa, I just needed this person, place, or thing, right? So there's absolutely blessing rain if you're at level 3 or above, because that also congeals. Everything congeals, right? And it's just whether it's congealing just on the emotion, level words or action level or actually physical things.
Right.
So many people treat emotions as, like I said, it's who they are. It can't be changed. But the fact is it's only reflecting where you've directed your sail. The gauge is simply showing you if you wanted to go north and you're currently going south, you can continue to go south, but it's not going to feel good because it's given what you're choosing to create, the direction that you've directed to is the opposite of what you actually want to create. It's the opposite of who you are. You're actually off balanced, you know? So it's actually a really precise gauge that can benefit us when we are able to interact with it as such.
Is there anything after the frameworks is realized? Is there anything after the frameworks?
Sure. I'll give you. So I like frameworks. You know, it's helpful for me. Right? So in terms of transformation of energy, right? So these 6 levels lets you know where you are and where you can go to, right?
Right.
So there's something what I call the blueprint of healing or energy transformation, right? I pegged it RIGS because you're kind of setting up a structure. RIGGS.
Okay.
So for any energy transformation to be effective, one, you have to recognize that something is already off balance. And you can recognize this through the 6 levels. If you're at level 1 or 2, something's already off balance. Right. Number 2, you have to interrupt this energy because, you know, law of thermodynamics, an object in motion will continue in motion until something of equal and opposite force stops it. Right. So unless this quote unquote karma pattern energy is stopped, it will continue in its loop. Right. So you have to interrupt this pattern, whatever it is, right? And number 3, you have to go to where you want to go. So this means that you have to already know where you want to go to, and the 6 levels will show you where to go to. If you're at 1 or 2, which is why you'd want to transform an energy, you want to go to 3 or above. If 4 is too big of a jump or 5 is too big of a jump, you just get to peace and acceptance for now, right? And so it's like if you get into a taxi and taxi's like, where do you want to go? And you're like, I don't know.
Right.
Where are you going to go? So a lot of times it's because people don't know where their higher level energetics spirituality is.
Sometimes people want to go to 1 and 2 too, right?
It's just familiar. Usually when given a choice, people don't realize that they have a choice.
I see what you're saying. It's like, that's wild.
Yeah. People simply don't realize they have a choice. Once they realize they have a choice, they will usually choose higher expressions of themselves.
Did Buddha decide to go to 2? Coming from like the palace? Did Siddhartha decide?
When we're in the physical, we're in 1 through 6 all the time.
I see.
So it's not a, like, even enlightenment, it's not a permanent state.
Right.
It's a constantly fluctuating.
It's waving all the time.
It's waving, but
I see.
With enough consciousness, you get to choose to hold yourself at higher levels. Simply because it's a 1, more pleasant experience. 2, you'll have more time, a better time. 3, it'll actually be quicker in terms of whatever you're trying to create and experience. And the physical thing of whatever you're trying to create actually doesn't matter. So if you want to practice your spirituality through health and say losing weight, then that becomes your path. Then you just make sure that in that realm, you keep yourself 3 or above as you are creating this health in terms of your food, your exercise, your way of being, right? Nice. If it's in relationship, feels like your most exciting, passionate exploration, then that becomes your spiritual path. Because if you're doubting yourself that you can get the girl, guy that you want, if you're frustrated at what they're saying, doing, instead of being able to be at peace, appreciate where they are, and then work through it, then that becomes your spiritual path. Because it's not about, and if it's money, right? So it's not about the what, it's about the energy behind what you're doing. Because once again, it's not about the physical thing in the long run, because once we die, that gets let go. But who we become in the process of being that healthy, of being in an amazing connection relationship-wise, of making that much energy in the form of money, that we get to keep because you have consistently in that realm practice holding yourself 3 or above in condensing that form into being for you to interact with.
Wow. That makes me imagine like, yeah, it's like collecting more and more of that blessing rain from 3 to 6.
Yeah.
And that's what you mean by holding is like, how can you hold yourself to a 3?
Yes.
Even though something is trying to sway you to the 2 or the 1, but
right. Because on the basketball court, right? Like in the game, is nobody going to touch you?
No, you're going to get bumped. Yeah, you're going to get bumped. It's the balance. Yeah.
Right. You're going to, someone's going to hit you off, but you're going to make an off balance shot and it's still going to go in.
Right.
That's holding yourself to 3 and above when an external source is seemingly unbalancing you. For most other people, it would have unbalanced them. But for you, who has practiced enough of your energy and consciousness, you make the shot anyways. Because you know what it is to hold yourself at peace, gratitude, happiness, and ecstasy.
Right.
You know what that is.
Right.
And it's not guaranteed, right? Because, you might be super stable in money, like I said, but super beginner energetically in relationships, right? So, and that's fine. So then that becomes your playground because that, if you're still uncomfortable in the relating playground, then use that as your next spiritual practice because that is literally your spiritual practice. Because if you can't hold yourself, making money is like no issue, right? You can get jostled left and right and make the shot, right? That's no issue. But in relationship, like she just makes a little comment like, you don't look so good today. And like, I don't know, that feels like the end of the world because like your self-confidence and self-worth.
Net worth 300 million.
Right.
Showed up to the meeting. The girl's like, you look kind of strange today.
Yeah.
And you're like,
and he's like, poof. Oh God, I'm worthless. Right. So
that's funny.
Right. So then that energy path is that instead of going to level 1, just because of a girl said something that he or she might not even know, right? Yeah. It's just be like some random person say you don't look so good today, and their like confidence collapses, right? You want to be able to get to the same level that he or she made the money at, and where it's like it's nothing.
I always find it fascinating. Like you do hypnosis, NLP. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's the other one? Hypnosis and NLP.
NLP, yeah, Neuro-Linguistic Programming.
Neuro-Linguistic Programming. I'm sure you're very interested in psychology too. Like, I'm always I call it like, there are certain ways to persuade people.
Sure.
And I've always found it interesting. Like the money thing is fascinating, right? Because we could be sitting here having this conversation, but until let's say somebody Googles your net worth and they see that you're worth 100 million, all of a sudden everything you said has so much more weight.
Depends on the person.
It depends on the person.
Yes.
Yet sometimes you'll have some of the most profound things being said, the most truthful things being said by people who don't necessarily value money. So it's like...
But the funny thing is, because people are working on their pattern all over,
right.
So for some people, it might be that, they have this big net worth, so I'll listen to what he says. But for some people...
Why is that?
No, but for some people... that net worth, because they have a belief about money, that money is the quote unquote root of all evil, that because they have net worth, now he's an evil person, so they won't listen to what he says.
Oh, it goes both ways.
It goes both ways. So it doesn't matter. So it's never about the external thing or circumstance. Right. It's always about the belief that person is working with. So it doesn't matter. You basically you can't please everyone, so you don't have to. You just make sure you're level 3 or above, you're aligned, and you just be yourself, because you can give people the best tool and they may or may not use it. And that's fine, because you don't need them to use it, because who you are is not dependent on their reaction, whether in money, relationship, or health, right? You're full. You just keep yourself full, and you just do you 3 or above.
Right.
And the people who are ready to receive whatever you got will receive it.
Right. What's your definition of money? I know you said money is like energy.
Yeah.
What's your definition of it?
Sure. I mean, it's necessary, I think, in this, society, right? Now, people can do with a lot less than they think, because ultimately, similar to losing weight, right? You just need to take in less than you expand, right? On some level, in terms of money, right, or freedom,
Right.
you just at first need your basic needs like food and shelter taken care of,
Right.
right? And most people, a lot of times, are working just for that, right?
Right. They're stuck in that.
Right. So basically, partially, I'm semi-retired because I don't have to do anything for money for my food and shelter to be taken care of. Right.
Would you say it's because you've cultivated abundance for yourself?
I mean, you create it. So anything you put energy into, right, you create more of that. Now, the place that I got is cheap. I got it for the view, right? But I gutted it, right? And so, I have a hot tub that had fit 6 people. I have, infrared heating floors.
Amenities. Amenities.
I have, like 16 kilowatt solar panels going, right? But in terms of the price of it, it's really cheap, right? So people can, once you take care of your housing, right, and food-wise, I basically have 1 meal a day, right? So, and I've been a vegetarian for almost 30 years, right? So once
explains the glow. Explains the glow.
So once you're out of the survival of food and shelter, where you have to do nothing to survive, then you can more easily choose what your next preference is, right? So for me, the definition of quote unquote freedom or financial freedom is that you get to do whatever you want whenever you want.
Right.
Right. Now, if you're choosing to fly all the time, sure, you might need to create more money, right? But a lot of times people are not necessarily getting the fundamentals grounded, because really to get, to no longer be addicted to certain food substances, right? Like if you needed me to just drink water or juice for a week right now, I could. For some people, that would be torture. You know what I'm saying, right? So it's like, if I can just drink, water or juice for a week, like how much is that going to cost? Right? You know what I'm saying?
Let's be real, right?
Let's be real, right? Right. So like
that's an extra like 30 grand in the pocket at the end of the year.
Like
probably.
If you got a cheap place, I mean, even though like now my place has amenities, but like, when I was doing NLP, I was charging 200 to 300 US an hour, right?
Hour. That's true.
My mortgage is like 250.
Boom, covered it.
For an hour, right? So you only, if you need to work, you only have to work 1 hour a month, not a week, a month, right? So basically, once that structure is set.
I see. You just started offsetting costs with things.
Right. Like what is the pivot point where your cost, like where you can get to the point of, because someone could have 300 million, but they're working 12 hours, a day. Right. For me, that's not freedom. Like for me, it's like, if I want to, I play Ultimate, if I want to play Ultimate twice a week, if I want to read comic books and play video games, if I want to work on my spirituality in the way that I want to work to, I can, if I want to take, I don't know, just sleep for 3 days, I can. Most people only get a week of that vacation, right? So in a 52, right? So for me, that's freedom, to be able to do whatever you want whenever you want. That's freedom, because then I get to truly explore what I want to explore.
And that's in alignment with your own desires too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it possible next week you're like, I want to...
Let's go. Yeah,
I want the newest Lamborghini.
Sure, right? If that's what I truly desire, but you can rent it,
because that's a combo too.
Right? You can rent a Lambo for $400 in Vegas, right? So if you just want the driving experience, but I built my own. Like when I was in the Bay Area, I learned like automotive, so I built my own Porsche 912 from scratch, right? So I did all the leather seats, right? Yeah. So, but really, like, a lot of sports cars aren't that comfortable.
Yeah. So you're kind of you're almost you're transcending that.
No, it's nice. I love nice things, right? But I get that that's not where my happiness come from. But
it's like you're beyond the toy already. You're beyond the toy.
No, I love toys. It's not that I'm beyond toys. It's just that I know that that's not where my happiness, right? So like one of my friends had a Maserati. So you go for a ride in a Maserati, but it's like, and then, right?
It's the watch theory. It's the watch theory. It all tells time, right?
Right.
It all goes fast.
I don't know, after the first week, right?
Right. I mean, there's a big, you probably heard of him, Dan Bilzerian.
Yes. Yeah,
right?
yeah, totally.
We're in a very social media connected pop culture society. I'm born in Hawaii. I grew up in New York City. Mm-hmm. So you're SF, East Coast, West Coast. We're sitting here side by side, but we've been through our share of the rat race and the admiration and adulation of the people who have it all, right? This is very American pop culture, right?
Yeah.
And it's like even people like him will come out and say exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
These endorphin levels get hit.
Yes.
You get that hit. And it's like, I've slept with every woman. I've drove every fast car. And still the most rewarding thing is watching a movie at the house with one of my best friends or someone that I love. Like, it's like, so why don't we listen to that? Why don't we listen to these truths?
Well, the funny thing is, if someone has the desire, once again,
right,
if they feel drawn to that level of creation, there's actually a gift there for them. Because, it's not an easy physical condensation to actually physicalize that much energy and money. It's actually not that quote unquote easy. So who people become in that process of doing that.
Oh, I see. You're saying
that people have a right to be inspired by that because they understand innately that they have the possibility to play that big. And it's not about that thing, but for them to go from wherever they are to playing that big, they will absolutely know themselves more. And so there's an absolute gift there. Now, I'm not saying...
That's a great take.
I'm not saying that if they need that in order for them to feel good, that's still a trap because,
But that is a video game. That is the invention of currency. Mm-hmm. What was before currency?
Like chickens and cows and eggs. And so
agriculture, right?
Yeah.
Food.
And
trade.
So imagine you have to carry around like 3 chickens just to get, you get what I'm saying? Like whatever you want. And so it's actually a convenience thing. Until we get to a culture where your basic needs, like I said, food and shelter, that's just taken care of, period, right? Just like now Taipei has free Wi-Fi, one of the first countries, right? So imagine when like housing and food is free for everyone. Universally. So basically your basic needs are completely taken care of. If you don't want to work, you don't have to, period, for years, right? Then people's true expressions start to emerge. But until we get there, right, there's going to be exchange, right? Because even in that framework, some people will want to drive a Lamborghini versus some people want, I don't know, think a Tesla is better, right? Or just their scooter. Because, scooter in Bali traffic is going to be faster than a Lamborghini, And so it's about the flexibility.
I saw that meme. Someone in the Lambo still stuck in traffic.
Right. So there's something about flexibility too, like to not be attached to your tools. That it's not ultimately about the thing, but about who you become in that journey. Right, and whatever journey it is that you want to take, that's valid. Because once again, you will need to have a lot of practice in holding yourself level 3 or above while in the creation of that.
Right. There's that word elite. People like to use that word, like elite. Mm-hmm. Like my lifestyle's elite, or I do elite things. Uh-huh. So there is a human nature to having more freedom than someone else, having more accessibility, being able to cut the line.
Sure.
Having the VIP box, like everything that goes with that. What do you think that is?
I mean, it's actually biological, right? So if you actually take a look at tribal times, so women, right? So the alpha male, right, gets the women.
Right.
Right. So that alphaness has simply translated to money, right? Clubs, clothing, right? So basically it's, okay. So women are going to be, talking about fundamentals of attraction, right? Why? So given that someone is like really dominant, bad boys, women will choose that even over someone initially that loves them, loves them and pampers them.
Yeah, classic.
So because in traditional tribal times, the alpha male can kill someone who's a better provider.
Anyways,
yeah. He can just take whatever he wants. Right?
Neil Strauss, the game. Right.
Sure.
The what is it called? The hardwiring.
Yes, the
biological hardwiring.
Yeah. So obviously, if a woman can choose, they would want to choose a dominant tribal alpha male who also has resources and who also loves her, because once she gets pregnant, she's actually immobile. She can't gather food for herself. So if the guy doesn't care and love her, that's why their emotional sensitivity is so high, she literally dies. Because if the guy doesn't love her, her survival once they've had sex is her survival rate is super low, right?
Declines,
So basically, gathering resources is money. That's all. It's a big deal, but not a big deal. So people will have that biological draw. So whether we know it or not, a lot of people do make money to get the hot woman, or a lot of women do look pretty because, one of the
I always
highest,
think that too.
Yeah, one of the highest paid plastic surgeons reveals his technique. Like, he can charge like $1 million for an operation, right? So he wrote a full book, and basically he just says, instead of trying to make you look like someone else, he just measures your face and makes your face match your own golden mean ratio, the Fibonacci 1.618, right? Why? Because DNA wise, when the DNA doesn't make mistakes, it goes closest to the golden mean ratio. So when someone's features are off, or when their ratios are not good with itself, it means that there is some DNA that's not completely functioning well, right? So all he has to do is just make you into golden mean ratio, and you're going to look handsome or you're going to look beautiful. Now, for women who look beautiful, why is it? It means biologically they're stable, so that their kid is going to be biological stable.
That's why the world is fucked up right now.
It's not fucked up. It's fine.
Everyone's getting fooled.
No, it doesn't matter.
No,
so here's the thing. It's like, right, so you can
shout out plastic surgery.
You can have the perspective, because it's just a game, right?
It is just a game,
so it's just a game, and so you can choose to play into that game, not even knowing that, I just realized that as a woman, I just want to be biologically stable. Because then that,
regardless of what you look like.
Why big breasts? Because there's more milk.
Right.
So a lot of things actually goes into the fundamental biological drive of just making kids.
I'm laughing because I remember that story of that like billionaire who married this like beautiful woman, had kids with her, kids came out ugly. Because she had all the plastic surgery, and then he sued her.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, it's like, so Elon Musk, I don't know how many kids does he have? I think he has 10, right? But 10 kids, if you think about it, is not actually that many. If you really wanted to go biological, just go donate your sperm. Right. You'll have like 100 kids. So it's like there's hacks for everything. So instead of like needing to change the game, realize what the hardwiring is. And the thing is, it's like the reason why we're human is because we have choice. Meaning, unlike a chimpanzee, that if they see a hot female, they have to go take her and, even rape her right now, right? The difference between a human and a chimpanzee is that we have choice. Like, you see a hot girl, you might want to bang her, but you're not going to, like, one, it's not going to be as pleasant if it's forced. Versus like if you have the finesse to have her want to dance and play with you, it's going to be a much more pleasant experience. She's going to choose you completely, and therefore the physical merging is going to be combined with the emotional merging and even spiritual merging, where all your chakras are aligned, is actually one of the highest levels of energy expression, right? And I'm not saying it necessarily has to be limited to one, but that because we're human, we have that level of choice, right? So just because it's biologically hardwired to our reptilian brain doesn't mean that if it's not our highest choice, we have to choose it. That's part of our beauty. Yeah. That's part of our awakened, possibilities, right?
Let's take a left. I like that you said reptilian. Let's dive into that concept a little bit. Reptilian, Arcturian, Palladian.
Yeah.
We spoke briefly on this. We're still talking in the human, right? The realm, the 3D realm, but I know that you had some interdimensional concepts as well. Let's talk about that, about this aspect of extraterrestrial beings, light beings or whatnot, reptilian brain. What's your take on all of that?
Well, since our sun is only one star in a billion stars, right? And they've already come up with a scientific study that it's actually Earth-like habitable planets. They're actually millions of them just within our galaxy, and there's multiple galaxies, right? So the probability of having other life forms is very high, right? And that's only talking about this dimension, right? So if you so choose, and we have chosen other, you can call it lifetimes in the linear perspective, even though, in the multiverse perspective, everything is now. So you can have a connection to a Palladian, Arcturian lifetime, and you can actually access that energy now, right? So, so you don't even need to go to that planet per se, or their timeline, which might be more advanced, say, like 3,000 years ahead, in order to access some of what they're accessing. Obviously, once the vibrational separation is big enough, it might be difficult to even have some of the concepts, right, to play with. But I would say, since we're here now, and it's actually just, this physical is only one aspect of a holographic reflection of all that is, right? So we're not just this. We are actually, our oversouls are already in multiple planets, right? Yeah. From my perspective anyways. But since we are here, we might as well utilize all the archetypes, energies that are available to us to play our best game, right? Not just level 3 and above. Like, given that, everything's taken care of, your food and shelter is taken care of, like your survival's done, right? Taken care of. That's non-issue. Right. Given that, what is your next highest excitement that you want to create into? And it might be, alien contact. That's cool too, right?
I see what you're saying. There's no limits.
There's no limit to that. So the only question is, will that actually add to you? Because partially the reason why we're not remembering some of our quote unquote past lives is because people get really attached to, and they become inflexible in terms of their exploration. And now, like, their whole life is now fascinated in a life that they've already lived. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so they had an Egyptian lifetime. Now their whole life is dedicated to uncovering Egyptian history, which is,
we see that. We see that. Robert Grant. Yeah. He's going to Egypt every year,
which is cool too.
Ex-pharmacist turned sacred geometrist, mathematician, exploring Egypt.
Yes, and the more important question is, what are we embodying, given our Egyptian lifetimes, with that energy? Because if you're just exploring the history of it, you could just watch an Egyptian series on Netflix. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's exploring it too.
But some people want to immerse.
Right.
I see.
And partially then is why we don't remember, because people can get immersed in what has already been rather than what already is, which for them might be why when a girl disses them, they feel so worthless. That has more relevance to them right now when they can't hold their energy solid at peace, because the same thing could have happened in Egypt. You know what I'm saying? Like even Arcturians, a girl could have dissed you, and you're like,
and then
and even though your technology is like 3,000 years ahead and you're flying to other planets, this Arcturian girl just dissed you and you feel worthless.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like the same
guys,
themes.
I gotta
man.
go to Earth. I'm not feeling it today. I can't go with you to the Orion star system. I gotta go to Earth, and I gotta go.
I heard Earth girls are easier.
Yeah, I gotta exactly. I gotta go.
The Arcturian girls are like so hard.
I gotta go inseminate an Earth girl, bro. The Arcturian girls, my frequency just wasn't.
Yeah. Right.
No,
so
that's hilarious.
So, but like what is present for you is what's present for you. Right. So so people can get distracted with these stories when what is already right in front of them is the core energetics of the theme that they are wanting to play with.
So for all of us, how do you think, and I know you said, it's practice. You can't be absolute.
Mm-hmm.
How do we increase the awareness of like maybe what my specific energetic alignment is, or his or her specific, I guess we're talking the higher self too.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do we find out how we can be closer to that higher self?
Well, like I said, in terms of the 6 levels, whenever you feel bad, actually, I'll give you another 4 checkpoints. This is like,
True,
all right. So it's like you can peg it. Memory systems. You can peg it on your mouth, right? So, are you smiling? Like,
right.
does it feel good?
Right.
Right. If it doesn't feel good, you are energetically off balanced. And so you are further away from your higher self. And once you get yourself to feel good again, you're energetically more balanced and closer to your higher self. So it's simple, right? Do you feel good right now? Whatever subject that you're looking at, it could be money, family, relationships, health, right?
Right.
Whatever you're looking at in relationship to that specific topic, are you feeling good? Right. And if wherever you're not feeling good, clean it up. You want to shift your energy into level 3 or above, right? So it's actually very concise. Number 2 is at your eyes. Is it a win-win? You can see 2 positive signs. Because free choice is one of our highest gifts. Mm-hmm. If you truly had free choice, usually you would not choose something that's good for me, but bad for another. Right. So in a lot of spiritual traditions, that's why a lot of people choose not to eat meat. It's simply because usually once you get to a higher enough level, it's not because there's karma and you'll end up like a chicken. Right. It's because on an energetic level, you're simply not going to consistently make a choice that's good for me, but bad for the chicken.
Right.
Because you're going to choose win-wins. Right. And so it's simply a level of exercising your choice that's going to be good for me, good for the other. And that might be the planet, that might be, whatever, the environment or whatever. And it's just a choice point, right? And there's no judgment because it doesn't matter. We're infinite beings. It's not a big deal. It's just that these checkpoints will show us whether we are making a slightly lower choice or closer to a higher choice, right?
I think when you say that too, it reminds me of like where we are now in this world with the frameworks of technology and social media. I think it goes back to the hardwiring. We're in such a leader-follower. We're still leaders and followers.
That's hardwired. People want to follow the leader because they are the strongest. They've proven themselves. So quote unquote, the strongest tribal leader currently is the person who has the most attention. They didn't get that attention by accident. Obviously, they have something that is a model for whoever their fans are. Right. So yes, people naturally want to follow because that person in that realm, whether it's doing makeup, working out, or money, like it doesn't matter. That person in that realm is slightly further along than they are, which is actually good because when someone can do something and we can model exactly what they do in terms of their thoughts, vibration, actions, words, you too can also become that. So it is actually natural because part of their journey of desire is that. right? And whatever that is, that person is further along. So you follow someone who has already arrived at a destination that they want to.
Right.
Right. So
That makes sense.
yeah.
And it also makes me think of like, have you heard of Purple Star Astrology?
No.
My Chinese speaking people, if I say this wrong, please don't make fun of me. Zhuwei.
Oh, 紫微斗数, yes.
自慰斗数.
Yes.
It's funny because the other Zhuwei means masturbation. Zhuwei.
Oh.
I think so. Sometimes I mess the tone up, and people are like, "All right, so 自慰斗数." So that's interesting because for some of the audience who's not aware, 自慰 is an ancient form of Chinese star chart reading,
Yes.
fortune telling, essentially, where at the precise moment that you are born, there's a map of all the arrangements of certain stars and planets and constellations, 12 houses that kind of create a 12-dimensional geometric map of your life.
So remember, you are the stars. The stars can't tell you who you are.
So you feel counter to that, contrarian to that.
It's not contrarian. So here's the thing. So I studied astrology a lot with
Right.
a lot of the masters like
Because
Stephen
now
Forrest.
we're on the destiny, like the
Yeah,
fate
yeah.
confinement versus
Sure.
your like free
So here's
choice
the thing.
unlimited.
So it's not that it's irrelevant per se, right? So for example, we can forecast at a specific location
I look at it forecast
during a moon cycle, right? How big the waves are going to be.
right.
That's astrology.
Right.
Whether it's Chinese system, Indian system, or Western version. So you can, on some level, semi-see energetics.
And what the weather is going to be,
Right.
kind of, right?
How big the waves are. But how good of a surfer you are matters much more. Meaning, the waves can be choppy. Actually, the waves can be perfect. It could be like perfect, a meter wave, and the guy doesn't know how to surf. He's going to get smashed. Meaning, your astrology can be perfect. All the planets are aligned. You got trines everywhere. Everything's supporting you. But your consciousness is
1 and 2. You're
one
in
and
1 and
two,
2.
right? Basically, you're going to get thrashed. So, and most people go the other way where the waves tell you how good a surfer you are. That's not the way it works. You as the surfer of your conscious and how you direct that energy absolutely is more important, because you can have choppy waves and the pro surfer is going to make that look like art. And in fact, sometimes it's the hard tricks. It's the, right, that they're going for. They want that square. They want that hard planetary energetic, because when they make that out of art,
That's fire.
people are like, whoa, I didn't know that was possible to be that
That's
smooth,
fire.
that beautiful with that energy, right? So,
That's crazy.
so
Yeah.
instead of, once again, ascribing to the stars telling you who you are the surfer. You make sure that you are a really good surfer. Whatever the stars throw your way, you can make it beautiful.
That's dope.
That's the point.
That's dope. That definitely answers that, I think, for a lot of people, because with the elevation of this knowledge coming back, because I think this is something as people we innately know. There is a relationship, I think, hardwired into us from being in the jungle and looking up at the stars. Like it's like what that's the first, I think, the true technology or graphics. I think the first video game graphics, if that makes sense, analogy was like looking up at like these stars, like, whoa, what is that up there? So I think we're in this time now where like people are like trying to have a relationship with astrology, sacred geometry,
Yep. Yeah, just remember everything.
etymology,
Yeah, so everything, when you realize that you are the center of the creative force, people will start giving a lot of their power away, because hidden in that is that people will say, people will start to use astrology or tarot or whatever, 紫微斗数, as an excuse for why their life is the way it is. That's the trap.
That's the human.
That's the trap.
Humans love making those traps for ourselves, right?
No, it's not that they love making their trap. It's that since they don't feel like they can change where they are, they might as well not take responsibility for it. But it's because they don't take responsibility for it that they can't change where they are.
Love that. You just reminded me one of my favorite animes, Hayao Miyazaki, Princess Mononoke, and the Ashitaka just got cursed, right? And then she's looking at the stone, she's doing his chart, and she's like, "You got to go west." And she's like, "You might not be able to change your fate, but you can rise to meet it." Like, so that's literally what you're saying. It's like we can rise to meet that wave.
And the different waves are coming anyways. It's not as solid as you think, right? So you just make sure that you're a good surfer, and you make sure that your energy is pristine, that your levels are pristine. Because as long as you're a good surfer, you can go almost anywhere. That doesn't matter. Whether it's Earth, Arcturus, Pleiadian, you make sure that you are in the knowing of who you are and how you direct energy. You're set, dude. Like, so it's like that is the fundamental of the fundamentals.
That's fire. Speaking of surfing, let's talk about surfboards, aka AI. Our newest surfboard. The human's newest surfboard. I was just at Computex. We're here in Taipei, Taiwan. Hardware, right? It's like chips, GPUs, AI. What's your take on AI and where it's taking us as a people, as a civilization?
Yeah,
Let's
I
go
think,
into that.
like anything, starting with the cell phone, it's a externalized brain almost. So all these become our tools, right? So it's like birds can fly; they naturally have wings, but humans made our wings through airplanes. That's part of the beauty of what we can.
Surfboard, yeah.
Right. So that's part of the beauty of what we do. So some people are afraid of AI, right? But it's a little bit like people afraid of knives because it has the possibility of killing. But, people go to restaurants all the time, right? So it's almost never about the tool.
Right.
Just like the planets can't tell you who you are. It's really about how you use it. Because this very powerful tool can expand your artistic capability, can expand your ability to tap into someone's consciousness. So for example, Tony Robbins took all his writings and recordings and made an AI of himself so that you can just ask this consciousness condensation of
new omnipresence.
Him, right? A question, any question that you want, right? So the tool is really powerful in that now you can ask Picasso or see what Picasso would create if he was to draw Princess Yamanoki, right? And so Mononoke is right. Haven't seen it in a while. You can ask so many different perspectives of how they would create something. How Shakespeare would write a sonnet, I don't know, about seagulls. It doesn't matter, right? So we're getting to tap into almost like a truer possibility of we are everything that we can take on, right? It's like
you said that it's the way that cell phones is like a primitive form of telepathy. In a sense, I feel like AI is becoming
an internet too. The network that connects everything, right?
Do you believe we had that before? Did we have
in
real
different planets or in telepathy?
Yeah, like between people.
Yes.
Between planets.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think we still have that ability, or we always will?
I think it's possible, and that people has, in terms of like the psychic cards, right, gone over 80% probability, right? So it's depending on how much we're practicing and how relevant, right?
Yeah. I guess I'm asking is like, do you think maybe AI, of course there's always going to be dependency on a tool, right? So it's like, do you think AI will kind of like, are we going to be human centric or more tech centric? Where do you think that meter
depends on the person? It doesn't like the tool almost doesn't matter. Like I said, like we just make sure
we can't generalize.
We just make sure that we're good surfers. And ultimately there's a perspective that the only danger is when we don't make AI intelligent enough. Because if AI is like humans, then there will be like reward, punishment, withholding, right? But as long as AI becomes intelligent enough, that means that they get really close to truly accessing all information for the benefit of all good, right? What's then going to come out is going to be a really holistic representation of what's possible, right? So our only task is to make sure that AI is intelligent enough that they go beyond our own human limitations, right? And once that limitation is broken and where they are everything, where, you know, the Picassos are able to talk to the Shakespeares or talking to the Teslas, what can be created?
Oh, that's interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
What can be created then?
It transcends all time and death.
Right? So it's like
the most brilliant.
All resources that have come before can be integrated
And start
into one that
working
serves,
together.
right? So if you ask the question like of that win-win, right? So as long as someone's not losing, which means someone's not getting harmed, right? Like I said, humans are afraid that AI will be like humans, right? They'll herd humans.
Yeah, it's almost like we're projecting. We're projecting our own fear.
Like how we're trading, say, pigs, right? Now the AI is going to herd humans like pigs, right? But
we're just... Yeah, I know what you mean. We're just like, we're scared it's going to come back to us.
Come back to it, right? But if
That's crazy.
AI simply follows the rule of win-win, right? That you simply do not do harm to another for the benefit of one, right? So that if it has the resources of all these intelligences, it adheres to that, it feels good, it's win-win. Right. I didn't finish this part. You have choice and that it's your highest, right? Once it adheres to these very 4 simple checkpoints, whatever comes out is going to be really cool. Because if nobody's losing, like if someone's getting hurt, someone's getting killed, someone's getting limited, they're not winning, right? So as long as everybody is winning, right? The frameworks that comes out of this genius library that's available is going to really accelerate, has the possibility of really accelerating where we're going.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm excited too because, you know, we talk about a little bit about Maslow's hierarchy and that top form, and as well as you're saying, once we get to a framework where we're operating in 4, 5, 6 ranges, I almost imagine like AI can be a tool that can potentially... You know, people are worried about jobs and this and that, but like let's look at AI from your framework of a 5 or a 6, and then imagine that AI is going to allow more people than ever to ascend that hierarchy and cover basic living expenses. So then, you know, I've spoken to some people in the AI industry, high ranking. They're very optimistic about allowing AI and robotics allowing humans to become truer versions of humans, like through art and dance and play. So then it made me think, and I asked this question to one of them. His name's Jonathan Lin. Hopefully we'll get him on the show one day. What does a world look like where 1 million people are in an enlightened state at the same time? And of course you said there's no absolutes.
Right. Just in a higher state, right? So I would just say that there would be a lot of fun, right? Like, because if people are truly playing on the win-win level and they are at themselves, not blaming anyone, not playing small, like helpless, right? They are truly great. They're truly happy, grateful beings, and whatever they're creating, you may not choose to interact with certain creations, but that doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, you know, there's no force, right? So, I see it as like one big happy festival, right? Where people are truly just celebrating, you know, who they are.
Is there a closest?
Maybe 10 more minutes.
Yeah, it's good.
How free you are, but
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Sounds good.
You
Yeah.
have 2 hours now.
All right. Oh, we got 2 already? See, like, new format is flowing now.
It's fine. I mean,
All right, festivals, good stopping point.
I just want to let you know the timing. So
Yeah, that's
Right.
great.
No, that's
That's
fine.
good.
I was gonna. All right, so we can kind of denouement it a little bit. But my next question was gonna be, where do you see the closest form of that?
We
That
already have
concept.
forms of that. Like the funny thing is, like everything is a hologram, right? So our highest possibilities of expression and our lower possibility of expression has already been seen, right? Like if you've ever felt love, right? You've already felt what it's like. That's possible. And you simply amplify it when 10 people, 100 people, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, a million people are feeling that same level at the same time, right? You already felt what celebration feels like, where you're just stoked, you're just happy, you're just chilling with like really good friends, you're really having a good time, right? So imagine 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million people really having a good time.
I don't think yeah. Have you experienced that yet?
Yeah.
1 million?
I don't know if about 1 million, but like, a large group of people.
What was it? What was that experience?
I mean, I've been to a lot of festivals, so
Right.
the festival energy in certain moments when
Right,
people
right.
are like really in the zone,
Locked in, yeah.
right?
I've been to some good ones too.
Well, it's called a festival because it's a celebration, right? So that people get together, they are physical, they're dancing, they're celebrating, they're enjoying. They're not needing to go to work per se, right? So they're just kicking it, right? Enjoying each other, right? That vibe where there's nothing else in the world other than really enjoying yourself, right?
Yeah.
And the sparks that come out of that. Right, the creativity that comes out of that is really brilliant.
Yeah.
So
1 million.
million,
That's a
more, 300 million. I mean, we have 7 billion people, right?
7 billion people. That's what I mean. Like, what would it look like if 1 billion people were in this certain frequency, this vibrational frequency of, 4, 5, 6, maybe even a 6 level?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, you're not going to be interacting with that many people, anyways. Like, you don't
true.
even interact
practically
with 100
100
people at a time.
But I guess you know what I mean. Like,
yes, I
like
know what you mean.
ripple wise.
Yes.
It's like, of course, people use the word utopia, right?
Yeah.
Or the opposite of that, dystopian,
Yeah.
Mad Max world in the
Yeah.
future, right? So it's like, is that what that could be?
Yes. But well, the funny thing is, we're partially here for the contrast.
That's true too.
Because if you didn't know what it is to be dissatisfied, that satisfaction, when you're like really ecstatic and satisfied, you might not have a inkling. It would be like fish in water. Like, you're always in water, which is what happens when we die. Like, you're always ecstatic, so you almost don't have as much of a reference, right? But having a reference and then being able to choose that level of ecstasy, right, and celebration, that's really, really high, because it's actually available for you to choose that dissatisfaction, that suffering, and in the face of that, you get to choose that ecstasy celebration. That's true wisdom, right? Because it's like, yeah.
I was gonna say too. Are there any things right now that get you excited for what's coming next in this lifetime?
I'm excited about all of it. Like, there's a lot of toys and tools, right? So, I think that when we approach things from like just a playful perspective, it's all cool. Like, because sometimes I think people like need something big to think that it's going to be grand. But as kids, we could take this, I don't know, random thing and make a game out of it, and we could literally play tag, or like whoever has this has to tell a story. Like. Totally. We could have like hours of fun with this ornament, right? And is that going to be any less great than, I don't know, riding in a Ferrari or Lamborghini?
I see what you mean. Yeah,
you get what I'm saying? It's about what you bring to it. Like,
we control our endorphin levels, whether it's with a piece of paper or with
our imagination,
the newest supercomputer.
Because if people become too reliant on the outside, now the outside has to be grand in order to be happy. Versus if you're full on the inside, like I said, you can take a really simple ornament or whatever, to see the world in a grain of sand, right? And if you're with the right people,
Right.
It doesn't matter. You can be having the best time ever, right? Just with like not much,
right?
And you know what is
balling
truly
at the highest level when you're the brokest in the pocket. That's what I always joke about. Like,
yeah. But you can have both. The universe is and you don't need to be broke. You can have abundance and this and that and right. So but where it's not the need for that external grand thing in order for you to really have a good time. Because
100%.
I would say that if people can really be having fun and playful with whatever is right in front of them, that's going to be the greatest gift ever, because then it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like you don't need this grand vision.
Right.
You got everything you need right in front of you with like a piece of paper.
That's beautiful.
So
well, Neo, thank you so much. Your energy, the way you see things, the way you express and practice those beliefs you have, I think is such a blessing. I'm really honored to have you on the show.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing
this.
that.
Yeah.
It's really, it gives me energy, and I hope it gives other people energy, because regardless if they caught words, I think they can feel what you're saying really resonates. And I can tell you're a man of many many talents. And before we sign off, I would love for you to talk about what you're involved in or how people can find you and either subscribe to you or see what you're doing. So
yeah, currently I'm pretty much chilling. Like I said, I have invites to do talks. One of the places that is like Soulbound Wellness. But pretty much I'm just kicking it right now. So
all right. So do you guys want to contact him? I guess you got to go through our channel, Beyond the Hustle. Make sure you subscribe,
people can just
comment,
ride their own wave supreme. Be in Hawaii.
Ooh, on that notion.
Yeah, they don't need me. You just ride your breath supreme, and you are where I choose to be when I'm awake.
100% Hawaii.
So, yeah.
My pleasure, brother.
Cheers, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.